Parliamentary colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to welcome Her Excellency Sri Mulyani Indrawati, who's the Minister of Finance for Indonesia. Minister, thank you so much for giving up your time. And earlier this morning, we stood in a minute's silence to remember those who've been affected, the victims of the tragedies in Indonesia recently. And we would ask you, as we did to your ministerial colleague this morning, just to accept our condolences and sympathy and to pass them on to His Excellency the President and to all the people of Indonesia. I know that in my country, and indeed many countries represented here, in fact all countries represented here, we feel that very sincerely, and we show we are in great solidarity with Indonesia at this time. Thank you very much for giving up your time to address us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, very good afternoon to all of you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I would like to thank the Parliamentary Forum for inviting me to deliver a special address in this very important moment. And I would like to also express my appreciation of your expression of sympathy and condolences to all the victims, as well as the government of Indonesia, who's working very hard in order for us to be able to recover the livelihood, as well as all the social, economic, and as well as all the infrastructure in the affected area. This morning, in fact, I was accompanying Managing Director IMF to visit Lombok. This is the first area hit by the earthquake, and then we also have another one which is bigger, combined with tsunami in Palu. So thank you so much for your support, and I also would like to express my appreciation that the fact that you are all coming down here in Indonesia to attend the Parliamentary Forum within the IMF World Bank annual meeting is an expression of confidence for all of you to us, the government of Indonesia and the people of Indonesia, that we are strong enough, resilient enough, that we are going to be able to rebuild and recover the livelihood of the people. So this occasion I was asked to talk about the issue related to the investment in human capital. A topic which is really very dear to my heart, is the highest priority of our government. Our president in many occasions always put the human capital and how we can develop human capital as the highest priority on our development. But before I touch that, let me update you with the recent economic development, because many governments in the world, they have and their ability to continue support the development and investing in human capital is certainly always affected by the economic development. If we look at the global economy, we certainly have quite some concern about what is happening, especially in 2018. On the one hand, we are all have the commitment, which is already put in a communication by all international community, what we call it the Sustainable Development Goals. This is the goals which is outlined by all international community, that we are all together can share prosperity, and we are all will do using all the instrument policy in order for us to be able to share prosperity, to continue making progress together. After we achieve MDG, then maybe some indicator has not been achieved, but after that, we, international community, also agree that we need to continue to commit together to share prosperity through the Sustainable Development Goal. So this is a very optimistic, considering that this has just been announced in 2015. That was just after a couple of years after global financial crisis, 2008, 2009. Since then, I think the current situation providing us with quite a lot of reflection that we really need to make sure that globally all country is going to continue commit to achieve progress together, not some progress or a certain progress at the cost of other. And this is something which is very critical to all of us to continue to voice that. And the parliamentary today, in this high-level parliamentary meeting, I would like to ask you all to become a voice of solidarity, collaboration, just like what you just expressed to us. Indonesia, when we hit by a certain disaster, you are all expressing your support. I think we are all, this kind of feeling of mutual and supporting each other is something that is very valuable at this very moment. Global economic environment is challenging, especially for emerging and developing countries because of the new normal, the higher interest rate, capital outflow, as well as trade policy, which is becoming quite a challenging environment for many countries who already make a progress through globalization, but for others who try to follow but now facing with the difficulties. If we talk about the human capital, before 2008-2009 financial crisis globally, developing countries actually has been experiencing a rapid acceleration in labor productivity growth. In contrast, the average productivity growth in advanced countries has been on a long-term downward trend. But in recent years, if you look at the figures after global financial crisis 2008-2009, productivity in many developing countries has been actually declining. And this is something that we really need to look in a very careful and critical way. Because without improvement in the human capital and labor productivity in developing countries, it is becoming even more challenging for developing countries to converge and to achieve a progress in their economic development closer to the advanced country. So we should look at this issue and ask what is the longer-term structural issue underpinning this labor productivity slowdown in many developing countries. We all know that human capital is a key in reducing poverty and addressing inequality. A lot of global evidence shows that human capital is a key factor that drives economies around the world. And realizing this condition in recent decades, governments around the globe made valuable investment in human capital. So recognizing that human capital is important, I think more or less is already spread all over the world. And many governments, at least in the political rhetoric, they say that I need to address the issue of human capital. And the question more on how we are going to do it, rather than just recognizing the issue. First, I think the most important aspect of human capital is the health. Health factors is critical, and it is affecting the quality of human capital. As of now, in the statistic, 400 million people still lack access to essential health services globally, and 100 million people each year fall into poverty as a result of health-related expenses. Governments need to put extra effort on the health services to ensure that people can get the right nutrition, can get the services, health services to prevent them to fall into poverty. Malnutrition is one of the world's most serious problem. At least in this case, something that we really need to address. And we know now that malnutrition, especially at the very early stage of life, can create a permanent damage. And that create also stunting that will destroying the future of those persons. So if country able to address this issue of stunting and malnutrition at the very early age of the baby, then the country average economy can actually have 7% greater GDP per capita. So it's a huge benefit, but sometimes really need the right investment and intervention at the very early stage. The cost of investment definitely far outweighs the gains, but we today still see 150 million children remain stunted worldwide. In Indonesia, we also recognize this serious problem, and that's why the government is doing serious program to address that. The second aspect of human capital is certainly education. Education is important for developing human capital, cognitive skill of the population, rather than just school attainment, are powerfully related to individual learning, to the distribution of income, and most importantly, to economic growth. Millions and millions of children are unable to understand even simple sentences or to do a simple arithmetic even after having been in primary school for a few years. This indicates there is a problem in the existing educational system that can lead to a learning crisis. The crisis is a serious economic issue that can be solved with attention to the quality of education and better management of education system. A good quality and better management of education system can create a potential human capital that foster more innovation and positively impact the economy. And I'm glad the World Bank is paying attention a lot in this area that can help many member countries. In concert with education and health, one of the government's tools in supporting human capital investment has been adopted in many developing countries, that is through social protection. So social protection can play an important role in poverty reduction and making growth inclusive of the poor. With well-managed social protection program, people can definitely improve access to education and health. So healthy and educated people will have a better chance to compete in digital economy. Today, the nature of work is changing and shifting in line with technological advancement. The working environment needs to provide an adequate opportunity for workers to grow and reskill. A lot of study has already predicting that digital economy is going to destroy a lot of jobs, especially the manual, repetitive job. And this is the challenge for many policymakers all over the world, not only in advanced countries, but also in many developing countries. So workers have to be equipped with qualified, relevant, and useful education and skill. In the future, productivity will no longer calculated from the perspiration, but mostly through inspiration. In this regard, government have to provide comprehensive educational system and provide equal education opportunity by making education affordable for everyone. The government should also develop vocational education and training program to respond to changes occurring in labor market and get workforce to be ready for the job of tomorrow. These government efforts should be supported by the business community and educational institution. Another aspect in this human capital is gender equality, which is already being discussed in many international fora, but we have to admit that progress is still need to be improved. According to the World Bank study released in 2018, the loss in human capital wealth due to gender inequality is estimated at 160.2 trillion US dollar. That's huge figures. This is about twice the value of global GDP. In other words, human capital wealth could increase by 21.7% globally and total wealth by 14% when gender parity in earning can be established. Human capital investment is the foundation of prosperity and a key driver of high income growth. So unleashing the human potential is a force multiplier that creates limitless potential. So let me now turn to the current Indonesian situation, which is related to human capital. According to the World Economic Forum 2017, Indonesia Global Human Development Index ranking is improved on the back of progress in education. Indonesia ranked today is 65th out of 130. In 2016, our ranks is 72. So it is an improvement. But this is not make us satisfied with what we achieve. In our region, if you look at our close neighbor, Singapore, is always in the top rank, 11th. Malaysia in the 33rd, and Vietnam is even in 64. So for Indonesia to be in this region and having a neighboring country who always achieve better is a good pressure for the government to deliver better. And that's why Indonesia focusing more and more our policy on improvement in our education. The government allocated 20% according to our constitution of our budget for education program. And this is something which is already politically, we have a commitment and translated into budget. What is the challenge for Indonesia is how we can make this 20% commitment of our budget to have a better result in the education. And that's have something to do with all the program. The government has already launched compulsory education program for 9 years. And we also provide a poor student with Kartu Indonesia Pintar, that is the smart Indonesian card, so that they are not quick to be dropped out and then cannot be then catching up with the family or children coming from more prosperity. We also, given that the importance of the school, the government provide a grant money for the school so that they are going to be able to operate with this assistance program. The goals of this program to make education more inclusive. We are not left behind the student coming from the poor family. But Indonesia have to admit that in terms of quality of curriculum and learning, we need to learn more from those who already have a better result. On a health area, the government also allocated 5% of our total budget for healthcare program. This being actually focused for providing children under 5 years that is actually suffering from stunting. And this is one of the areas that now we want to make sure that we are going to make a progress. This is not just the responsibility of Minister of Health. So dealing with stunting, we even have to have a cross-ministerial cooperation as well as local government, including in this case Minister of Public Work for the clean water as well as local government who actually responsible for the primary health care. On a social program, the Indonesia implement the national social security system in health sector to provide comprehensive social protection. In 2016, the number of beneficiaries was around 172 million people, or 66.4% of the population. Our program is the largest in the world. Social protection, in this case, expanded to cover education, welfare, as well as employment sector. On gender equality and equity, this is already integrated within Indonesian development agenda. in Ministry of Finance, my own ministry in this case, launched an initiative that is called a gender responsive budgeting. We want to address gender bias and discrimination. Government also promoted policy to improve equal opportunity for women, both in political and executive branches. In the political branch, equal representation between men and women in the parliament is going to be and continue to be promoted. On our last parliamentary election, 2014, the result is quite encouraging. There was a prerequisite of 30% woman representation on the list of parliamentary candidates. And today, the result is only almost more slightly above than half, that is 17.1%. So we still need to catch up, although there is a mandatory for the woman representation in a political party. We also pay attention on the change on the technology, and that's why many of our education is going to be updated with this new challenge. So I would like to close by saying that on this human capital, the global coordination and partnership is very, very important. So I'm glad that the parliamentary meeting today, the high level during the annual meeting, is discussing the human capital as one of the issues which is very critical, not only for one country, but also for the world. As a middle income country, Indonesia stands ready to contribute to the partnership by sharing our valuable experience, what is our success, but also our challenge. Because I believe that all countries can learn not only from the success, but sometimes from the failure, so that we can avoid. I do hope that the partnership through South-South and Triangular Cooperation Program that we, in this case Indonesia, promoting, is going to be able to achieve a better result of coordination globally. Thank you very much. And I would like to congratulate Morocco as a host for the annual meeting in 2021. Congratulations. Thank you so much for all your attention.
Minister, thank you very much indeed for sparing your time today and for your thoughts. We really appreciate that.
Thank you.
And I'm just looking at my colleagues. Is there an opportunity for a photograph with everybody?
Sure, sure.
There is an opportunity with you?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.